kidneys, bone structure, nervous system, brain waves. It could be anything. And what they do is wherever your body was the strongest, they will pull that slide out. They will put it back in the camera, and they will reinvigorate, reheal your body with your own imprint. And apparently, we have the ability to create such a thing. All the components are spread out. They're not pulled together yet. But we can do that. Okay? And we're talking about healing without surgeries. That's not to say that there won't be times where there may not be an immediate surgery. I don't know that. Politics. The mentoringship of politics. They consider politics and religions the same thing. Okay? And this is the area where they're very reserved regarding us. And the reason for that is, how will we know? No, let me rephrase that. Can we, will we, let go of traditions and dogma to embrace something we don't know? I'll give you an example. A Bill of Rights, individual liberties. It took thousands and thousands and thousands of years to get to a place where humanity, on a subconscious level, was so done with monarchies, tyrants, kings, and princes that we decided collectively to create individual liberties. And it manifested physically in the creation of the United States. Here we are 232 years later, and we're about to lose those liberties that took thousands and thousands of years to create, to manifest for all of humanity. Okay? Now, what's interesting is that the rest of the world, they're stunned that Americans could be this stupid. In fact, in traveling in Europe, I had the occasion to see some Swiss students get arrested. And one of the things that they said to the cops were, you got to read me my Miranda rights. Because they were watching American television. And the Swiss police said, you don't have any rights. Okay? Now I bring this up only because this is an issue. This is an issue of freedom. And this is important in the grand scheme of things. If you protect your freedoms, you are stating to everyone, including yourself, I am responsible. And that is the number one priority to taking the next step forward into advanced maturity in meeting face-to-face with benevolent extraterrestrial races. They are not going to babysit. It never works. It's not their job. Their job is to give us a start, because we have been so manipulated for so long. It would seem like forever. And we haven't even been aware of it. But people are waking up. People are beginning to become aware of it. But we have to protect our freedoms. Okay? The world, Earth, was never meant to be a slave colony, a slave planet. That was not the intent at all. And we should never put up with it or tolerate it in any way, shape, or form. Okay? We need to tell them to kiss our ass. So that's the big concern. Will we make that leap? Will we let go of having to be right in order to know what the truth is? I've had that very question put up to me. said directly to me. Can we also truly learn to forgive? Because everybody's had a role to play here. Okay? We've all had a role to play in creating this scenario, this game. Now, this whole thing about advanced maturity, this whole thing about extraterrestrial life, this whole thing about a resurgence of spirituality, this whole thing about relearning Mother Earth and living in harmony, and finally, giving the indigenous cultures their due and their acknowledgement because they were right all along. Okay? We were wrong. Civilized, industrial civilizations, they're not in balance. It's not to say they can't be, but what we've created is completely out of balance and has pushed the Earth to her limit. So we have to give them their due. This is all about us. We are the ones calling this forward. We are the ones who have asked for this. We are the ones who are making this change ourselves, within ourselves. We are the ones. This isn't where... nobody else is responsible for this but us. Okay? Apparently, on some level, we have decided this is as far as it goes, whether it's conscious or not, globally, that there's enough of it, enough conscious people who are making these choices to decide that this is as far as it goes the way it is. And it is ending. It is ending. Life, the way we have lived, is going to be changing. Okay? It could happen very quickly. It could happen somewhat gradually. Gradually would be better. But right now, it looks like it's going to be happening quickly. Now, is the world going to end? No, it's not going to end. That's not our destiny. We didn't work this hard and go through this much crap just to have it end. Okay? No, that's not how it's going to go. But there is going to be change. And it's going to be physical as far as our bodies. It's going to be physical as far as the earth. And I think psychically, that's going to be the biggest challenge for everyone. Because we have lived a predominantly material life, only to find out that all the energy we put into investing in creating a material life has done nothing to fill the voids. And people are going to have their own dark nights of the soul when they come to that place and they look at themselves and they just say, oh shit, it was all for nothing. Okay? And I know lots of people who are going through that right now, especially men. They did all the right things, said all the right things, worked all the right jobs, dedicated themselves, gave themselves away, all to find themselves completely empty. And they're having to look at that. And they're having to realize everything that they had been taught, much of it, wasn't what it's about at all. It's not what it's about. It's going to bug the men the most. Ladies, you're already so intuitive. You're just, I know, I told you so. Yeah, I already hear it. I told you so. Okay. So I said it for you. Okay? But the guys now, the guys are going to have to reach down deep inside of ourselves, and we're going to have to look for that intuitive piece. We're going to have to learn to trust that intuition and not just our ability to mentally strategize everything that's going to happen in the world. Well, if this happens, I can do that. If that happens, I can do this. If these two things happen, well, I can do that. But then there's this, so I need to compensate for that. I mean, we make ourselves crazy doing this. Okay? Because we haven't really learned to get to that place inside where we just learn to trust the flow. Because we've not embraced the flow in a very long time. Now, I don't necessarily mean the gentleman in the group here, okay? But I am talking about the outside world. There are a lot of people really struggling because they've done all the right things and they cannot understand why it doesn't work, okay? And they're blaming God, they're blaming their relationships, they're blaming everything, the government. And it isn't any of that. It's just that we've been on the wrong path and we've been building the wrong kind of life. And now we have an opportunity to do something different. But, well, it's not a but. But what we need to do, though, is we need to focus on what is it that we want to create. What does a planet of peace look like? What does a planet without war look like? Do we still want to have a planet that has a monetary system? Do we want a planet where there are no pharmaceutical companies, we just use natural ways of healing, color, light, and sound? You know, these are not overnight transitions, but it's a preparation. And those of us who have gotten it and have been talking about it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, you're now finding yourselves coming to a clearing, and there are going to be people waiting for you saying, how did you know? Can you teach me everything? I need to know now everything. Because our survival instinct is so strong. And we realize that the system we have isn't working. It's coming apart. And we're blessed that it hasn't happened all at once, that we can take this gradually. But it is happening. Okay? The blinds are being lifted. People are coming out of their comas. And this is what it's about. And it's happening in all walks of life. Let's take the 2012 scenario for a moment. Let's suppose there was going to be a pole shift. Okay, this is strictly a hypothetical, all right? And it's an interesting lesson, exercise. Let us suppose for a moment that there was going to be a pole shift, and half of the world's population was going to be gone, that the world could only sustain half. And the government came out forward and said, hey, this is really what's going to happen. And we've been preparing ourselves. We built our underground facilities. Sorry, they're not for you. We've been building bases on the moon and Mars. Sorry, they're not for you. And we have all this advanced technology, but there's no point giving it to you because all this is going to happen to the planet. You're on your own. Not that they would ever be that honest. Okay? Okay? Well, let's just suppose. So let's suppose you now knew for a fact that we had a year and a half to 2 years. No one knew who was going to make it. You didn't know where the safe places were. What would you do different with your life? What would you do with those last 2 years? Would you start selling real estate? Right? Would you become an artist? Would you allow yourself to fall in love again? Would you allow yourself to give forgiveness that you've been denying someone? Would you want to heal old relationships? Would you want to write a book? Would you want to travel? Would you want to learn to swim? I mean, whatever. What would you do differently if you knew you had 2 years? Now, I'm talking about as a planet. Now, individually, people face these realities every day through disease, cancer, and the such.